I don't know who will believe me. Hell, sometimes I don't believe me. But every time I close my eyes, I see that damn place. Flickering neon, the gas pumps humming with an unnatural sound, and that thing behind the counter pretending to be human. This happened 4 years ago. I was 27, working as a long-haul trucker out of Portland. Mostly night runs. I liked the stillness. Empty roads, no distractions. Just me and the hum of the tires on asphalt. It was a simple life, and I was okay with it. That night, I was heading eastbound on a secondary highway through Oregon. Route 242. Anyone who's driven it knows it's isolated as hell. Cell service drops out fast, and for miles, you don't see another soul. I was hauling construction equipment out to a small town near Idaho's border. Nothing unusual, until I saw the gas station. It wasn't supposed to be there. I knew this stretch like the back of my hand. I'd driven it maybe a dozen times that year alone, and there had never been a gas station, not even an abandoned one, within 50 miles of that spot. But there it was. It just blinked into view around a bend, like it had always been there. A rundown shell station, old-school pumps, cracked concrete, that faint orange-yellow glow from the sign overhead. And strangely, it was open. I remember looking at the dashboard. 1:13 a.m. My tank was 3/4 full. But something tugged at me. A thirst, maybe. Or that weird human compulsion to stop when something interrupts the expected. So I pulled in. As soon as my headlights up past the edge of the lot, something felt wrong. You ever get that feeling when you walk into a room and everyone's been talking about you? That icy prickling down your spine like invisible eyes have turned your way. That's what this was. Dialed up to 11. Still, I parked beside pump number 2. No other cars, no sign of a cashier. But the station lights were on. The store behind the pumps glowed warmly, and an old refrigerator unit buzzed faintly outside. It smelled faintly of gasoline and wet concrete, but there was something else under that, like rotting meat and burnt plastic. I killed the engine and stepped out. The night was too quiet. Not a single insect, no wind. Even the chirping frogs that usually hung around Oregon's marshy stretches were silent. Just the buzz of the flickering sign and the hum of the pumps. It was like the whole world had pressed pause. I should have gotten back in the truck and left. Instead, I walked inside. The door chimed. That old bell and spring kind of chime you barely hear anymore. The store looked like something out of the early 90s. Dingy tile floor, fluorescent lights overhead, rows of snacks, a dusty drink cooler, and behind the counter stood someone. I say someone because at first it looked human. A tall man, maybe late 40s, pale as hell with sunken eyes and a mop of greasy black hair. He didn't say anything, just stood behind the register staring at me. Not at me, really. More like through me. I cleared my throat. "Hey, just grabbing a drink." No response. I walked down one of the aisles. Chips, jerky, candy that hadn't been made since the early 2000s. I swear I saw a pack of Wonder Balls. You remember those? Chocolate with toys inside. They were banned for choking hazards in the US years ago. The wrapper still looked shiny and new. Something felt off. I looked at the expiration dates. None of them had any. Not a single product had a sell-by or expiration date. I should have walked out right then and there. But I didn't. I reached into the cooler and grabbed a bottle of water. Some off-brand I'd never heard of. Still Spring, drawn from the depths. It was ice cold, unnaturally cold. I turned to the cashier. "Hey man, you guys open? Or should I just leave a buck here?" He blinked, slowly, then smiled. That smile is what stuck with me. Lips stretched a little too wide, teeth too uniform, like someone trying to recreate a human face from memory, but getting the proportions just wrong. The kind of smile you'd see on a mannequin designed by a blind sculptor. "You pay," he rasped, voice dry and raspy like someone who hadn't used it in years. "You stay." I froze. "What?" He didn't move, just stared, that awful smile still frozen in place. "I said," he repeated slowly, "you pay, you stay." I backed toward the door. "Never mind, man. I'm out." The second I turned to push open the door, I felt the change. The warm fluorescent lights dimmed, not flickered, dimmed like a dying heart, losing its last bit of strength. Outside, the gas pumps vanished, not turned off, not shut down, vanished. The lot outside the glass door was pitch black. Where my truck had been was now nothing but a gray void, like fog rolling in from the edges of a dream. I couldn't see more than a few feet out the door, just thick, swirling black mist, pulsing slightly, as if breathing. I panicked. I shoved open the door and ran into the dark. I swear I only took 2 steps before I was inside again. Same spot, same aisle, same bottle of water in my hand. The man behind the counter was now standing in front of it. "Rule 1, he said, his mouth still fixed in that awful smile. "You don't leave once you enter." I dropped the water bottle. It hit the ground with a sound that didn't belong, like a deep bell tolling underwater. "What is this place?" I whispered. He tilted his head. "A stopover, a pocket, a place between places." I backed away, heart pounding so hard I thought I'd faint. I tried to reach for my phone, but my pocket was empty. No wallet, no keys, no phone. My hands were trembling, and the air felt thick, syrupy. "I want to go," I stammered. "You will," he said, "eventually." Behind him, a door creaked open, a door that hadn't been there before. It led to something impossibly dark, and I swear I heard voices, hundreds of them, whispering just beyond the threshold. Not loud, but desperate, crying, pleading, some laughing, some screaming. He pointed toward it. "You should see what happens when someone doesn't pay." And then he laughed, a sound like glass breaking underwater. I turned and ran, straight through the aisles, knocking over shelves. Candy spilled across the floor. Chips burst underfoot. I didn't care. I ran straight into the glass door, and this time, it didn't resist. I burst out into the night air. My truck was back. So were the pumps. Everything looked normal. But the store behind me, when I turned to look, was gone. Just empty highway behind me. No lights, no sign, just darkness. I jumped into the cab and drove like hell, not stopping for hours. I didn't care about sleep, fuel, or food. Just drove until the sun rose, and civilization came back into view. No one believed me. I've searched for that gas station, looked at satellite images, retraced my route, asked other truckers. Nothing. But I know what I saw, and I know I wasn't the only one. After that night, I didn't sleep for 2 days. Not because I wasn't tired. I was beyond exhausted. But every time I closed my eyes, I felt like I was slipping back into that place. Like the gas station was still out there in the folds of reality, waiting to open its doors again, waiting for me. I drove straight to a friend's place in Boise. Ronnie, a fellow trucker I'd known for years. We used to joke about weird roadside encounters, but when I told him what happened, he didn't laugh. Not once. He just leaned back in his recliner, staring at me, lips pursed like he was holding back something he'd buried deep. "You're not the first," he said finally. That made my stomach twist. "What do you mean?" I asked. Ronnie hesitated, then got up, walked to his old oak cabinet, and pulled out a shoebox full of dog-eared photos, receipts, handwritten notes, and crumpled flyers. He dropped it on the table between us. I started collecting these 10 years ago, he said, every time I'd hear someone talk about a gas station that didn't belong, one that showed up on roads where no station ever existed. I'd take notes. Didn't matter if it was New Mexico, Montana, hell, even upstate New York. The story's always the same. I sifted through the box. There were photos of torn-up maps, blacked-out routes, and even a Polaroid of a gas pump with a faint, almost shadowy silhouette behind it. Notes scribbled in trucker shorthand mentioned things like black fog, cashier's smile too wide, voices in back room, and don't take the candy. Ronnie pulled out a yellowed newspaper clipping. It was dated June 1994, before I was even old enough to ride a bike. The headline read, "Local man missing after reporting phantom gas station visit." The article was about a 31-year-old driver named Jason Deeks. Said he phoned his wife from a payphone near Route 50 in Nevada, rambling about a gas station that had moved or wasn't there before. The next morning, his rig was found idling on the side of the road, empty, no sign of Jason. He never showed up again, Ronnie said. No one found a trace. I leaned back, my hands shaking slightly. You think this thing, this place, it just moves around? Ronnie nodded. It's not tied to any one state. It's like a parasite or a trap. Something old, something hungry. Only comes out at night when the roads are empty and your mind's half asleep. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there, feeling like the floor under my feet wasn't as solid as it used to be. You're lucky you got out, Ronnie said, quieter now. Some don't. I stayed at his place that night, but I barely slept. I kept waking up to check the window, expecting to see that glow, the pale, buzzing orange neon cutting through the night. It didn't come, but the nightmares did. The dreams started a week later. At first, they were fragmented, blurry, muffled scenes of me standing inside the gas station, watching the same man behind the counter peel off his face like a latex mask. Underneath was something wet, glinting. No eyes, just pits, mouths where ears should be. But the worst part wasn't what he looked like. It was the door behind him, the door that had opened in the store, the one that led to the darkness filled with voices. It was always there in my dreams, pulsing like a wound, beckoning me. Sometimes I'd hear things coming from it. A woman crying, a child calling my name, a low growl that made my teeth hurt. I started keeping a journal, not because I wanted to, but because I was terrified I'd forget details. I'd wake up sweating, heart hammering, unsure of what was real. Writing helped, a little. One night, I had a different dream. In it, I was back at the gas station, but I wasn't alone. There was a girl standing beside me, teenager maybe, in a red hoodie, pale, eyes wide and glassy like a doll's. "You stopped," she said. "You weren't supposed to stop." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My mouth wouldn't open. She reached up and touched my face with a hand that felt like paper soaked in oil. "You left," she whispered. I didn't. Then the dream shattered into static. The next morning, I called every trucking company I could think of, asking if they'd had any drivers go missing lately. Most thought I was messing around. A few hung up, but one, a dispatcher out of Spokane, told me something that froze my blood. "Yeah," he said, 3 weeks ago. Young guy, new hire. Last GPS ping was somewhere near Route 242. Said he was stopping for gas around 1 a.m. We thought he was joking. He never made the delivery. "Name?" I asked. "Tyler Jameson." It wasn't the same night as mine, but it was the same stretch of highway, same time of night, same eerie disappearance. I dug deeper. posted anonymously on trucker forums, used burner accounts, started finding others. Not many, maybe 6 total, but the stories lined up too perfectly. A woman in Arizona who stopped at a glowing station and was chased by shadows with human eyes. A man in Ohio who found a bathroom in the back that went on forever. Each stall leading to a different version of his childhood home, but all of them wrong. A guy in Texas who said he pumped gas, looked away for a second, and when he turned back, his reflection in the truck window was still moving without him. Each time, night, isolated road, unexpected gas station, and always the same warning, whether whispered in a dream or shouted from behind the counter. You pay, you stay. I don't know what it wants. I don't even know if it is a place, or if it's something worse, something alive, wearing the skin of a gas station to lure people in. But I do know this. It knows who you are after the first visit. Because now it doesn't wait for me to find it. It finds me. Twice now I've been driving and seen the flicker of neon out of the corner of my eye where there shouldn't be any. Once, in broad daylight, I passed a closed diner and saw the old Shell logo half buried behind a billboard that wasn't there before. Worst of all, 2 nights ago, I was walking to my car outside a 24-hour diner in Colorado. I looked across the parking lot, and for 1 second, just one, I saw pump number 2. The exact one I'd pulled up to. Same crack in the concrete, same paint chip on the number, and behind it, just mist. Thick, black, breathing. It was gone the next blink. But I know what I saw, and I think it's getting closer. I stopped telling people about the gas station after that night in Colorado, because when I started noticing more, subtle changes in the world around me, I realized talking about it was making it worse, or maybe just more real, like it fed off acknowledgement, like awareness gave it strength. It started with the clocks, digital ones mostly. I'd glance at the microwave or the dash display in my truck, and for a split second, it would flash a time that couldn't breathe. Be right. 3:33 a.m., always that. Even in broad daylight, even if it was 10 in the morning, just a flicker, like a skipped heartbeat. One blink, gone. But enough to make me slam the brakes in panic or spill hot coffee across my lap. And every time, the same second of silence would follow. A silence too thick, like the world had held its breath. Then the radio started messing up. One night on I-70, I was passing through Kansas when the old trucker station I usually had on suddenly went dead. Static for about 5 seconds. Then it came back, but it wasn't the hosts or music. It was a voice, low, soft, almost mechanical, whispering, "Pump 2 is ready. Come back." I nearly veered off the road. I pulled over at a rest stop, shaking, heart punching through my ribs like it was trying to escape. I checked the radio. Nothing saved, nothing unusual in the tuner. Everything was normal, except I knew it wasn't. It never was after that. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing other things too. People acting off, little behaviors that didn't quite make sense. Like a waitress in Utah who handed me a receipt with the words, "They're watching from behind the cooler," scribbled under the total. Or a mechanic in Wyoming who stared too long at my truck and muttered, "You've been to that station. I can smell it on the wheels." One night, after a long haul, I parked at a truck stop and crawled into my cab's sleeper to crash. I woke up around midnight, not from a dream, but because my cab was ice cold, and there was a receipt stuck to the inside of the windshield. It hadn't been there before, I was sure of it. It was from that gas station. Same logo, same skewed font, dated 2 nights in the future. Under items purchased, It just said, "One passenger." I ripped it off and threw it out into the dark, but I didn't sleep again that night. I started avoiding driving at night altogether. That was almost impossible, given my job, but I rearranged routes, turned down overnight loads, and slept in weird places just to avoid being on the road past sundown. Still, it followed me. Once I checked into a motel at 5 p.m., just to crash early. The lady at the front desk was polite, normal, but when she handed me the room key, she held my hand a second too long, looked me straight in the eye, and said, "Make sure you don't open the mini fridge." That night, I didn't even look at the fridge. But around 3:33 a.m., that cursed time again, I heard something click. The fridge door opening. I didn't move. I just lay there, holding my breath. It was dead silent, until I heard something slither across the carpet and press softly against the edge of the bed. Something cold, something that smelled like rust and burnt hair. It didn't try to climb up. It just waited. I passed out eventually, or maybe I was pulled into sleep by something else, something that wanted me unconscious. When I woke up, it was gone. The fridge was open, empty, and ice had formed around its frame even though it was unplugged. But taped inside the door was another receipt. Pump 2, 1 item returned. I lost it after that. I drove straight to Ronnie's again, shaking, half out of my mind. I told him everything. He didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he just said, "You're marked now." I stared at him, not understanding. "It's like that station's got your scent," he explained. "Some of us, we get out, we drive away, but it remembers, and it wants us back." I asked him how to stop it. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "You don't. But there has to be something," I insisted. "I can't live like this. I'm seeing it everywhere now. The signs, the smell, people repeating things like it's a script they forgot halfway through." He took a long breath. "There's a story," he said finally. "Don't know if it's true, but they say if you go back willingly, if you find it on purpose, not just stumble into it, you might be able to make a deal." "A deal?" I asked. He nodded. "You give it something it wants more than you, and maybe it lets you go." I didn't like the sound of that, but I liked the alternative even less, because the sightings were increasing. I'd wake up to find dirt in my sheets, the same cracked red clay from under the station pumps. Once, I found a glass candy jar in my cab, filled with something black and sticky. A note attached said, "For the road." I didn't touch it, but the worst, the absolute worst, was when I called my sister. She lives in Oregon, teaches kindergarten, completely removed from my life on the road. I hadn't told her anything, kept her out of all this, but when she picked up, the first thing she said wasn't, "Hello." She whispered, "Why did you stop there?" Then the line went dead. I haven't been able to reach her since. No answer on her phone. School said she called in sick. Her boyfriend said she left in the middle of the night and hasn't come home. And I knew. It was because of me. Because I stopped. Because I talked. Because I looked back. Now it was spreading. The gas station, or whatever dark force it really was, wasn't content with just hunting me anymore. It wanted everyone I loved, everyone I touched, every road I drove. So I made the decision. I was going back to Route 242, back to the place it first appeared, back to the black mist and the flickering sign and the too-wide smile behind the counter. Not to run, to face it, and maybe, if I was lucky, to end it. I left at sundown, not because I wanted to be theatrical, but because I knew that's when it would show itself, if it was going to at all. It had to be dark, had to be the right time, the right frame of mind. Fear was a requirement, I think, like a key to the lock. I retraced my route from memory. Although the road itself seemed to push back, highway signs were missing. Roads that used to lead to Route 242 now dead-ended in fields. GPS kept rerouting me in circles, even trying to take me backward, like it was protecting me or sabotaging me. I couldn't tell which. I turned everything off. No music, no radio, no phone. Just me and the road, letting instinct guide me. The air got colder. Even though it was late summer in Missouri, a creeping frost began to coat the edges of my windshield. Not natural frost. It moved upward, not downward, like it was breathing against the glass from the inside out. My headlights flickered. Once, twice. Then up ahead I saw it, exactly as I remembered. The glowing red neon sign reading "Fuel Up" buzzed into view like it had been turned on just seconds before. A thin tendril of black mist curled across the pavement. The lights inside the station flickered like a dying bulb, and the gas pumps stood crooked, like they'd sunk into soft earth. I stopped the truck across the road and stared. The place didn't look aged or abandoned. It looked wrong, like it didn't obey the same physics as everything else, like it had been copy-pasted into reality from a sketchbook drawn by a madman. I stepped out of the cab. The moment my boots hit the asphalt, the air shifted, thicker, metallic. My lungs protested, not choking, but resisting. I crossed the street and approached the gas station. My footsteps sounded wrong on the pavement, hollow, delayed, like echoes from another time. When I reached the door, it opened on its own, just like last time. Inside, it was identical, to the detail. The same humming fridge full of sodas I wouldn't dare drink. The same rack of off-brand chips with labels in no language I knew. And the same man behind the counter. Only this time, he was smiling before I even stepped through. "Welcome back, traveler," he said, voice smooth and sticky like syrup left out in the sun. I didn't speak. "You came on purpose. That's a rarity." Still, I said nothing. I just stepped forward, hands clenched in my jacket pockets. He tilted his head. "You seek release. You think there's a bargain to be made, but you didn't read the fine print." I reached into my pocket and pulled out the receipts. All of them, crisp, unburnt, though I'd tried more than once to destroy them. I slammed them on the counter. His smile didn't falter. "You brought proof. Brave. But it's not what we need." My voice finally returned, brittle and sharp. "What do you need?" His eyes shifted slightly, not side to side, but inwards, like he was peering through his own skull. Then he said, "A replacement." The word echoed, in the shelves, the floor, my teeth. I didn't respond. "You entered freely. You left. But you continued to speak. You invited others to see. Now you must balance the weight." He gestured behind me. I turned. There was a mirror. Wasn't there before. And in it, I saw myself. But not myself. Not quite. It was a version of me, gaunt and pale, eyes sunken, lips blackened like they'd been stitched shut and then torn open again. And in its hand was a set of keys, my truck keys. The reflection smiled, not with joy, but like it was finally getting a turn behind the wheel. I turned back to the man behind the counter. "You're saying someone has to stay?" He nodded once. "Everything has a price." I took a long breath and thought about who I could give it. My mind went dark, not because I was evil, but because for one flicker of a second, I entertained it. What if I brought someone else here? What if I lured a stranger, someone no one would miss, just once, to get my freedom back? That's what it wanted, what it fed on. Choice. It didn't matter if you were scared. It wanted you to choose, to participate. That was the real currency. and that's when I realized something. "No," I said. The man's smile faltered. "I'm not giving you anyone. Not even myself." The lights overhead buzzed louder. "You have to make an exchange," he said, more forceful now. "There is no departure without sacrifice." I stepped back. "No," I repeated. Then I did something stupid. I ran, out the door, across the lot, toward my truck. I half expected the pavement to turn into molasses, or for the mist to claw at my legs. But I made it. I slammed the door shut, jammed the keys into the ignition, and turned. The engine didn't start. Instead, the radio turned on. It was playing the same voice from before. "Pump 2 is ready. For you." Then a laugh. The kind that doesn't sound human. Too many layers. Like a crowd of people all laughing through static. I slammed my fist into the dash, and the radio died. Tried the ignition again. This time, the engine roared to life. I threw it into gear and gunned it backward, wheels squealing, spraying gravel behind me. In the rearview mirror, I saw the station flicker. Once, twice, then gone. Just trees and dark highway. I drove through the night. No GPS, no phone. Just a compass and a gut instinct that if I kept going away, it wouldn't find me again. But I was wrong, because the very next morning, at a rest stop in Oklahoma, I found something waiting in my cab. It wasn't a receipt this time. It was a map. And it was drawn in what looked like dried blood. A line traced across 4 states, ending in a red X. Scrawled next to it, "Next stop, Pump 3. I didn't sleep that day. How could I? I sat in the truck with the doors locked, engine idling, hands gripping the wheel like it was the only thing tethering me to reality. My eyes burned, but I didn't dare close them for more than a blink. Every time I did, I saw that damn gas station flicker back into existence behind my eyelids, like a memory that wouldn't rot. The map lay crumpled in the passenger seat. I hadn't touched it since I found it. I'd hoped it would disappear if I ignored it. But that was naive. By sunset, something changed. A sound, like a dragging chain across concrete, echoed faintly from beneath the rig. Then a single, deliberate knock from inside the locked trailer. I jumped out of the cab and opened the rear. Empty, of course. The air inside smelled like wet ash. I closed it, climbed back into the driver's seat, and finally gave in. I reached for the map. It wasn't paper, not exactly. It felt like skin, dry, rough, and too warm, and the ink didn't smear. I tested it, spit on my finger, and rubbed hard. Nothing. The red X was still there, still pulsing faintly like it had a heartbeat. It led to a place deep in New Mexico, a stretch of desert road with no name, just a curve off Route 285, where there shouldn't have been anything but sand and jackrabbits. I should have burned it. I should have driven the opposite direction. Instead, I followed the line. I told myself I just wanted to see, that I could turn around any time. That knowledge was safer than ignorance. But deep down, I think I already knew. This wasn't about curiosity anymore. It was a summons, and something was waiting. The drive south was long and mostly silent. I passed towns I'd never heard of, places with names like Los Muertos, Crimson Bend, and one that wasn't even a word, just a number, 66.6. No people, no lights, just long empty roads that seemed to curve in on themselves when I wasn't looking. The desert changed, too. It wasn't just sand and brush. It was wrong. Shapes that didn't belong. Shadows where there should be none. Rocks stacked like crude altars along the road's edge. At one point, I passed a dead coyote strung up between 2 Joshua trees, its stomach hollowed out and filled with melted candles. Still burning, I didn't stop, not until I reached the mark. It was just after midnight. I pulled over onto the shoulder at a curve with no signage, no pullout, no reason to exist. And there it was, the gas station. This time, the neon sign read, Pump 3. It looked different, more decayed, more honest, maybe. Like it wasn't trying to disguise itself anymore. The pumps were rusted, half sunk in cracked concrete. The lights flickered like strobes at a rave for the dead. A payphone beside the door dangled its receiver, swinging slowly despite the dead air. I sat in my truck for a long time before I got out. Part of me thought, maybe it wouldn't activate unless I stepped onto the lot. Maybe this was still a choice, but my legs moved anyway, like they didn't belong to me anymore. The second my boot hit the cracked pavement, I heard it again. That voice, through the payphone, through the rusted speaker at Pump 3, through the wind itself. Refuel, repay, reap. I walked to the door and pushed it open. No bell this time, no cashier. The store was dark, lit only by the flickering fridge in the back. Shelves were empty, walls stained with handprints, or something worse. A single item sat on the counter, a tape recorder, old, analog, spools barely turning. I pressed play. My voice came out, panicked, breathing hard. If you're hearing this, it means I made it back, but not whole, not really. They follow, in dreams, in reflections, in silence. If you've seen the station, you're marked. There's no escape, only transit. Then static, then a new voice, the cashier, smooth, sticky. Well done, traveler. Your fare has been tallied. One final delivery remains. A click, then silence. I looked down. Next to the tape recorder sat a new receipt. This one was stained red, not ink. My name was on it, and beneath it, one word, payment due. I turned, heart hammering. The store wasn't empty anymore. Something stood in the aisle, too tall, shoulders scraping the ceiling, no face, just a smooth black void, like oil slicked over a skull. It pointed to me, and then to the mirror behind the counter. I hadn't noticed it before, but now I saw. My reflection was gone, replaced. The version I'd seen before, sunken, pale, rotting, now stood where I should have been. It smiled, and then it stepped through the glass. It stepped through the mirror like stepping through fog. No sound, no shattered glass, just a ripple, like oil over water. And suddenly it was real. I was staring at myself, except it wasn't me. Its face was the same eyes, same beard, same scar on my brow from that bar fight in Lubbock. But there was something wrong in its expression, something too exact, like someone trying too hard to mimic humanity. A puppet, moving on strings made of rot. And worst of all, it was smiling. That wide, unnatural, lipless grin that no sane man could make. I stepped back instinctively, bumping into a shelf. The thing stepped forward in perfect sync, like a reflection still chained to my movements. "Who the hell are you?" I whispered, but my voice was swallowed by the oppressive silence of the store. The thing's mouth moved, slowly, and when it spoke, it sounded like me, only deeper, like my voice filtered through soil and static. "You paid the toll," it said. "Now your route ends here." I turned and ran. I didn't care anymore about the rules, the whispers, the gas station's games. I bolted through the front door and toward my truck, but the truck was gone. No, not gone. Changed. It was still there, but it looked old, ancient, rusted through, windows blacked out with dried blood or tar, and symbols, dozens of them, carved into the metal in a language I couldn't recognize. The kind of writing that felt wrong even to look at, like your brain wasn't made to process it. I stumbled backward, spinning in place. The desert around me had shifted. The road was gone, replaced by a spiraling trail of black gravel that stretched in both directions under a red sky. A sky with no stars. Only one enormous bloodshot eye staring down, unblinking, its pupil twitching every few seconds like it was adjusting to see me clearer. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. Behind me, the door to the station creaked open. My double was still there, waiting, still smiling. It raised one hand, slowly, and pointed at the truck. And this time, I understood. I had to drive. This wasn't a choice anymore. It was a sentence. When I opened the door, the truck hissed, literally hissed, like steam escaping flesh. The seat was wet, sticky. The steering wheel pulsed slightly under my grip. But it started. Of course it did. The radio buzzed to life on its own. No music, just a voice. My voice again, reading names, hundreds of them, one after the other. Cole W., May 12th, Route 6, gas to grave. Tammy R., August 9th, Route 13, gas to grave. Donnie P., January 2nd, Route 2, gas to grave. I didn't know these people, but I knew what the list was. A ledger, passengers, victims, fuel. The road shifted beneath me as the truck began to move on its own. I didn't turn the wheel. I didn't press the gas. It just moved, and I was along for the ride. For what felt like hours or days, I drove through landscapes I can't even describe. Forests of bone, oceans made of eyes, tunnels that screamed when you passed through them. Once, I saw another truck pass me going the opposite direction. The driver looked exactly like me, but older, and he looked terrified. He tried to speak, to warn me, but his mouth had been sewn shut. The stitches were made from hair. Eventually, I arrived at a place marked only by a sign. Drop point, passenger soul number 2814. The truck stopped. The door opened on its own, and someone climbed in. A girl, maybe 12, wide eyes, silent, dirt-smudged face, holding a cracked phone with no signal. She looked at me, at my face, at the hands that gripped the wheel, and she whispered, "You're not the driver I asked for." I tried to speak, to explain, but my mouth moved without me. A voice I didn't recognize said, "Ride's already paid for. Buckle up." The girl obeyed. The door closed, and we started moving again. That's when I realized what the gas station really was. It wasn't a store, or a rest stop, or even a place. It was a threshold, a gate. For what, I didn't know. But I was part of it now. The truck drove endlessly, dropping off people who never spoke, never aged, always afraid. And every night, every damn night, the gas station would appear again, like a mirage, different signs, different faces, always waiting, and I'd stop, because I couldn't not stop. That was the deal. But now, somehow, I've made it back, just for a moment, just long enough to tell this. If you're reading this, or hearing this, or even just thinking about that gas station, don't look for it. Don't go near it, because once you've seen it, once it's seen you, the map appears, the toll begins, and there's no exit. They say you lose track of time out here. They're wrong. Time doesn't slip away from you. It devours you, inch by inch. You feel every second stretching like wire across your skin, tightening, until you can't even remember what silence or sunlight ever felt like. I don't sleep anymore, not in any real sense. The road hums beneath me like a living thing, and the passengers keep coming. Night after night after night. Every time I think I've reached the end, that the fuel's run dry, or the road has curled into a dead end, the truck stops, the door opens, and someone else gets in. Sometimes they're crying, sometimes they're catatonic. Once a man with no eyes climbed in and whispered, "I'm not supposed to be here yet." Then he turned to me, grinned with a mouthful of nails, and said, but neither are you. The gas station keeps changing. Sometimes it looks exactly like it did the first night. Flickering lights, gator jerky rack, weirdly clean floors. Other times it's warped, like someone tried to recreate it from a half-remembered dream. Once it was just a single pump in a field of corn, glowing in the darkness like a lighthouse made of rust. Another time, I stopped, and the entire station was underground. A spiral staircase led down to a single room with shelves of nothing but empty cans and mirrors. There was a child down there, or something child-shaped, humming a lullaby I swear I haven't heard since my mother's funeral. Every version has one thing in common. There's always a mirror, and there's always something waiting on the other side. Not always me. Once it was my father. He's been dead for 20 years. But the thing in the mirror had his eyes, his voice, and a single message. We all refuel somewhere, son. The worst part, I've started to recognize the passengers. Not personally, I don't know their names. But I know them. They've been in my dreams, my memories. I remember a boy I saw once during a high school field trip. He slipped off the cliff at Devil's Canyon. Never found his body. He got in my truck last week, still wearing that red hoodie, soaked in something dark that wasn't rain. Another night, a woman climbed in with half her face missing. I realized, hours later, that she looked exactly like a nurse who treated me after my accident in 2003. She'd been kind, gentle. I never knew what happened to her after the hospital shut down. Now she's a passenger. Are these ghosts? Echoes? Something worse? I tried asking once. It didn't end well. That night I asked a teenage girl, maybe 17, who she was. She smiled and said, "I'm your replacement." I didn't understand. Laughed it off. She didn't laugh back. Later, when I checked the rear view, she wasn't there anymore, just her shadow. And in the reflection of the glass, I saw myself, older, gaunt, hollow-eyed, sitting in the back seat, watching me drive. I swerved off the road that night, or tried to. The truck kept going. The road doesn't end. There are rules here. Some spoken, most not. You learn them fast, or you disappear. 1. Never refuse a passenger, even if they have no face, even if they crawl. 2. Don't touch the fuel gauge. It fills on its own. You don't want to know with what. 3. The radio will lie. Don't listen when it says exit ahead. 4. If you see your own face standing on the roadside, drive faster. Don't stop. That's not you. 5. Once a week, the sky turns green. Park and cover the mirrors. Wait exactly 13 minutes. Don't look outside. 6. Don't try to count how many passengers you've had. You'll remember people that never existed. 7. You are not delivering them anywhere. They're delivering you. I wrote these rules in my logbook, but the ink fades every morning. Now I just whisper them to myself, over and over, like a prayer or a curse. Last night, I stopped at a version of the gas station that was floating. No ground, no pumps, just a glass cube in the middle of black space, suspended on nothing. Inside, the aisles were filled with identical dolls, all stitched to look like me. Every single one of them had their mouth ripped open. In the freezer section was a man, frozen solid, his eyes moving behind a veil of ice. And behind the counter, her, my wife. But she's been dead 3 years. She looked up, smiled. "Pump or soul?" she asked. I ran, but I didn't get far. When I looked back, the gas station wasn't there anymore. Only the truck, only the road, only me. I don't think I ever left that first night. I think this is what happens when you stop at places that don't belong on any map. When you stray off the known roads, and take a detour into places not built for the living. The gas station, whatever it is, feeds on detours. It wants the lost. It wants the broken. It waits for people like me, truckers riding through empty highways, desperate for a piss and a snack and some goddamn rest. And once you walk in, you never really leave. Only versions of you do. If I ever do make it back, for real, I know what I'll do. I'll find the exact mile marker. I'll take a blowtorch to that stretch of road, burn it to hell. But I'm not hopeful, because sometimes when I pass my reflection in the windshield, it doesn't move when I do. It just grins and waits. You ever get the feeling that something is driving you? I don't mean spiritually, like purpose or some deep motivation. I mean literally, like your hands are on the wheel, your eyes are on the road, but some other force is making the decisions. You're just along for the ride. That's what it feels like now. The truck keeps moving. The odometer ticks, but I can't recall turning the key. Can't remember pressing the gas. I just open my eyes and it's already in motion, humming low like it's breathing beneath me. And the worst part, I'm starting to think the truck knows where it's going, and I don't. Last night I saw something I shouldn't have. A billboard on the side of the road, glowing white in the middle of nowhere. Blank at first glance, just a white panel. But as I got closer, I saw text burning into the surface like it was being written in real time. You shouldn't have stopped. I blinked, and it changed. They're following your smell. Then just before it vanished, your bones remember the way back. I didn't even realize I'd pulled over. My fingers were gripping the wheel so tight, the skin had gone pale. I was whispering something over and over again, but I didn't know the language. My tongue hurt. When I looked in the rearview mirror, the highway was gone. Just black. No stars, no road. Only the gas station in the distance, closer than it should have been. I tried fighting it. I swear I did. I tried turning the truck around. I put it in reverse and gunned it. Trees blurred past, signs reversed. The gas station shrank behind me until I blinked, and it was suddenly ahead of me again. The road looped. I threw the door open and ran, feet pounding gravel, breath in my ears, forest rushing by, no sound but my panic and the snapping of branches behind me. I don't know how long I ran, maybe minutes, maybe hours, but eventually I tripped over something metal, hard, unmoving. I rolled over, and I was lying beside the truck. It had never left, and the passenger door was wide open, waiting. The new rider looked like me. Not exactly, but close enough. Same stubble, same old leather jacket I lost years ago, same scar on the chin. He looked at me with tired eyes and said, "Took you long enough." I asked him who he was. He said, "The last version that ran." Then he smiled and slid into the back seat. The door closed on its own. I didn't start the engine, but the truck moved, and the gas station. Closer again. Sometimes I wonder, is this hell? Not the fire and brimstone kind, not eternal torture, but a loop you can't break, a single mistake that ripples outward forever. You took the wrong exit, you stopped at the wrong station, you asked the wrong question. Now you're trapped in a liminal space, forever one turn away from escape. But the map always changes, and the rules are etched in disappearing ink. Sometimes I pass other vehicles. They're always empty, windows fogged, headlights on, no driver, just shadows flickering behind the glass, following me, mirroring me, mocking me. I tried calling out once, to whatever force runs this place. Yelled into the void, "What do you want from me?" That night, the radio turned on by itself. A voice crackled through, deep and wet, like it was bubbling through tar. We want your story." I nearly slammed the truck into a ditch. The voice laughed, not like a person, like a group, hundreds of people laughing in perfect sync. It spoke again. "The ones who listen to this, they like to be scared." Then silence, static, and then a tune began playing. A lullaby, the same one the child thing hummed in the underground station, over and over, for hours. Later, when I stopped to piss on the side of the road, I saw something in the dirt. A journal. Mine. Only, it wasn't wet. Wasn't dirty. The pages were fresh, white, crisp. I opened it and saw entries I hadn't written yet. Descriptions of gas stations I hadn't visited. Passengers I hadn't met. One entry read, "She gets in around 3:07 a.m., blonde. No shoes. Her mouth doesn't open when she talks, and she keeps petting a lump in her coat like it's alive. Don't ask what's in it." I looked at my watch. 3 a.m. I sprinted back to the truck, heart pounding like a war drum. At 3:07 a.m., she got in, just like the journal said. And when she turned to me, I swear to God, her mouth didn't move, but I heard her clearly. "Don't be afraid. It gets easier once you forget your name." I haven't said my name aloud in weeks, though I'm scared I'll get it wrong. Scared it won't feel like mine anymore. I used to think journaling would help. Documenting every station, every horror, would somehow keep me tethered. But now I flip through the pages, and there are words written in handwriting I don't recognize. Sometimes in languages I don't understand. Once I found a photograph folded into the spine. It showed me, standing at a gas pump, smiling, arm around a woman I didn't recognize. We looked happy. On the back someone had written, "Don't let him in. He's not the real you." I burned the photo. It screamed as it curled into ash. I saw a city once, lit up in the distance like a mirage. Skyscrapers, neon lights, movement, civilization. I floored it, desperate for real life, for people, for anything but black roads and haunted pumps. But as I got closer, the buildings started to melt. The lights stretched upward like they were trying to escape gravity. Cars on the freeway were frozen, not stalled, literally frozen, covered in ice, so thick it steamed in the heatless wind. And in the center of the city, there was a mirror the size of a building. I saw myself in it. Only, I was driving a different truck, bigger, blacker, with passengers chained to the walls inside. That reflection me turned and winked. Then the city vanished, and I was back on the road. Again. If you're reading this, if somehow this story survives me, please, for the love of God, don't stop at that gas station, even if it's late. Even if you're low on fuel, even if the lights are on and the music's playing and it feels like a slice of nostalgia you can't resist. Because once you go in, part of you always stays, and the rest keeps driving. They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. If that's true, then this highway is a goddamn asylum. Because every night, no matter which direction I go, no matter which road I take, the gas station finds me. It doesn't even hide it anymore. Sometimes it just appears in the middle of the road, blocking the path completely, lit up like a Vegas casino. Neon flickering open signs, country music bleeding through the dark like it's laughing at me. And if I don't stop, if I try to drive through it, well, I did that once, and I ended up inside anyway. Truck slammed on the brakes by itself. Seatbelt wrapped around me like a snake, choking tight. Next thing I know, I'm at pump number 3, nozzle in hand, fuel meter ticking, even though the tank was full. The worst part, I didn't remember getting out of the truck, or putting the nozzle in, or how my hand had blood on it. A man once appeared in the back of my rig. No sound, no movement. I just blinked, and he was sitting there, legs crossed, wearing a sheriff's uniform from a decade that didn't match the calendar. His badge said Henderson. His skin looked like dried paper. Eyes were clouded like he was underwater. He said one thing: "They don't like when you talk about them." Then he vanished. But the next morning my voice was gone. Not metaphorically. I literally couldn't speak. No scream, no whisper. Like my throat was sewn shut. It lasted 3 days. 3 days of silence and radio static, and the gas station slowly crawling closer behind every bend. On the 4th day, I coughed up a tooth. Then my voice came back. But I haven't said their name since. I've tried everything to break this, burn the truck. It came back, drove it into a ravine, woke up in the driver's seat, engine humming, tried ramming the gas station with full force, hit something, all right, but not the building. I hit myself, swear to God. As I plowed through the pumps, there was another me standing at the counter, ringing someone up. He turned, locked eyes with me, and mouthed the words, "Wrong turn." Then everything went black. When I woke up, I was parked behind the building, keys in the ignition, music playing, and a bag of chips on the passenger seat. Opened, half-eaten, with a receipt that read, "Come again soon." One night I found a map. It wasn't paper, more like skin, leathered, stretched tight on the dashboard, roads etched in deep black grooves. No names, just symbols. Gas stations marked by tiny red X's, hundreds of them, some already burned through, some still pulsing like open wounds. One symbol near the bottom, a spiral, had my name scrawled beside it, and under it, in handwriting I wish I could forget. Final stop. I tried to scratch it off. The truck's engine died instantly. Didn't turn back on for 5 hours. When it finally sputtered to life, the X's had multiplied, and the spiral, it was pulsing. It gets lonelier than you'd expect, even with the passengers. Even with the other versions of me I sometimes glimpse inside mirrors, staring back with hollow eyes and cracked grins. Even with the gas station always close. There's no comfort here, just echoes, memories that don't belong to me, smells I can't place, a song that plays on loop when I close my eyes. Fill up, time to go. Pump the soul before the show. A jingle. Something inside me remembers it. From before. Maybe from a childhood that wasn't mine. Maybe from a life I never lived. But I know it. And that terrifies me more than anything. Sometimes I think I hear voices under the floorboards. Yes, floorboards. The truck doesn't have them. But some nights when I'm parked, the ground beneath vibrates like something's crawling underneath. I pressed my ear to the cab floor once, heard whispers, not words, just desperate, wet sounds, like dozens of people whispering at once underwater. They were saying something together, chanting. I recorded it once, played it backward. The reversed audio clearly said, "Let us out, let us out, let us out." The next morning, the file was gone, and there were handprints on the inside of my windshield. From the inside. One night I thought I saw salvation. A church off the road. Lights on. Door open. Cross glowing red. I pulled over. Stepped inside. Empty pews. Old wood. Smelled like rain and gasoline. There was one figure at the altar. Not a priest. Not a man. Just a presence. And a sign next to it that said, "Confess." So I did. I poured out everything. The gas station, the voices, the passengers, the loops, the things I saw in mirrors, the hands that reached out of the pumps, the time I saw my mother walk out of the restroom, even though she died 10 years ago, and she asked me where the lemonade was. I confessed it all. The figure didn't speak. It just pointed behind me. I turned, and the gas station was inside the church, glowing, closer than ever. Now I don't stop, not even to piss, not even to sleep. I drive with my eyes open and the radio off and the windows cracked so I can hear if the whispers get too close. Every once in a while, I see a signpost with names I almost remember. Edison, Low Hollow, 5 crosses. They shimmer like memories, but I don't turn. I know better now, because the one time I followed one of those signs, I ended up in a town that looked normal. Diners, schools, kids playing. But everyone had the same face, and they all turned to look at me, and they all spoke in unison. We've been expecting you. I never reversed so fast in my life. As I pulled away, I looked in the mirror and saw they weren't waving goodbye. They were waving me forward, like they wanted me to come back when I was ready. And that scares me more than anything else, because part of me wants to. If I go quiet, if these entries stop, you'll know the gas station finally won. Or maybe I found the spiral. Maybe I stepped out of the truck and walked into the fog and let the version of me in the black rig take my place. Or maybe I finally parked at the last stop. Whatever happens, just promise me something. If you're ever on a long, empty road, if you see a glowing sign up ahead, if it's 3:03 a.m. and you think it's just a coincidence, keep driving, no matter how tired you are, no matter how thirsty, no matter how familiar it feels, because some stations, they don't sell fuel, they feed on something else, and once they know your name, they'll never forget it. I didn't think I'd make it this far. Hell, I didn't think I was still me anymore. But if you're reading this, if these logs made it out, then maybe, just maybe, there's a sliver of hope left for someone else. Because I'm done running. I know that now. I've reached the edge. It began last night. The signs changed. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, maybe years, time doesn't move right anymore. The billboards weren't about soda or fast food or tire pressure. They were about me. I passed one that read, "The drifter has arrived." Another said, "Pump 7 is ready." And the third, "All roads end here." It wasn't subtle anymore. The gas station didn't want to hide. It wanted me to come home. The landscape started shifting. No trees, no sky. Just a heavy black dome overhead, like I was driving under a dying planet. The road beneath turned soft. Not dirt, not asphalt. Flesh. It pulsed under the tires, like I was being swallowed. I would have turned around if there was anywhere left to turn to. But it was just one road now, a single, endless stretch that led to a gas station glowing at the horizon like a lighthouse made of neon and teeth. Because, yes, the roof had teeth. Jagged, yellowed, and chewing on the night. And I kept driving toward it, because something in me, something buried deep, whispered, "This is where you were always meant to go." When I arrived, there were no other cars, no wind, no sky, just me, the truck, and that impossible station. I stepped out. The door didn't creak, the gravel didn't crunch. It was silent, unnaturally so. And then from the shadows between pump 6 and 7, it stepped forward. The attendant. But it wasn't a person. Not really. It wore human skin like a child wears bed sheets on Halloween. Too loose, too smooth, no eyes. Just 2 deep holes that dripped. Its voice came from everywhere at once. "We've waited a long time for this." I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. Not out of fear, but because something inside me was responding to it. Like it had the key to a part of me I never knew was locked. And then it said, "You are not the first. You will not be the last. But you are ready." I tried to ask, for what? But it already knew. The lights above the pumps flared, turning from white to red, to something that didn't exist in the color spectrum. Something that felt like burning and drowning and being born all at once. And then the ground opened. Not beneath me, behind the station. A garage door slowly rose, revealing an underground tunnel bathed in that same impossible light. The attendant gestured. Final delivery. I should have run. I wanted to run, but I stepped forward, one foot in front of the other, through the station doors, past aisles that bent in unnatural angles, past coolers filled with items that pulsed and breathed and wept when I looked at them, to the back office, where the real door waited, a mirror, old, cracked, and dripping oil. Above it a sign, greater than know thyself. When I stepped through, everything changed. I didn't see the station anymore. I saw them, the drivers, hundreds, thousands, trapped in loops, stuck in forever roads, whispering into radios that had no receivers, each of them broken in different ways. One was stuck in a town made of teeth. One kept driving through different versions of the same diner, each with a version of his wife who always asked, "Why didn't you stop sooner?" Another drove backward endlessly, headlights off, while something large chased him just outside the mirrors. And then I saw me. Dozens of me's. One sitting in a padded room, rocking. One floating inside a fuel tank, eyes wide, lips stitched. One kneeling at the altar of a gas pump, praying in reverse. The attendant stood beside me, watching. These are the lives you didn't live. These are the selves you left behind. I asked what it wanted from me. It replied, choice. The mirror split. Two doors appeared. One glowed with warm light, familiar smells. A world where I'd never stopped at the gas station. A life that had moved on. Boring, maybe, but safe. A second door led to the spiral. I don't know how I knew that, but I did. The spiral was truth. Not peace, not safety, but understanding. Real, raw, mind-shattering understanding. And once I saw it, I couldn't choose the first door. I stepped into the spiral. It wasn't a tunnel. It was a feeling, a vortex that peeled back my memories like onion layers. My childhood, my first love, my worst regrets, all of it torn away gently like band-aids from skin that never healed. Until I reached the center, and there, sitting in a chair made of chrome and bone, was me. Older, empty-eyed, still driving, still delivering, still stopping at that godforsaken station every night. He looked at me and said, "Tag, you're it," and vanished. Now I'm here, back in the truck, back on the road. But something's different. I don't fear the gas station anymore, because I am the gas station now. I don't just visit it, I carry it inside me. Every mile I drive, the world twists. People stop at stations they swear weren't there before. They walk inside and come out wrong. They pump gas and get marked. And then they find me, their eyes wide, their hands shaking, asking for help. And all I can do is smile and say, Pump 7 is ready, because the road doesn't end. The loop doesn't break. It just needs new drivers. And someone has to open the door.